And in Lenox, Alabama, July the 6th, 2024. We started having our boot camp in 2005. So thank you for joining us. We're here to train people to get ready to get out for the battlefield and win souls for the Lord. That's what we're here for. We have a record board at Dinosaur Adventure Land. We got some kids broke a record. If you come here and break a record on one of our activities, we have 14 different records you can break. You will get a certificate. You get your name on the record board, and you become Dinosaur Adventure Land wide famous. Okay. Elizabeth Kokenauer, is she here? Airplane launch? Not here? Okay. 200 feet with a paper airplane for a 10-year-old. Yay. I'll give that to her. Jonathan Kokenauer, is he here? Come on up here, Jonathan. You'd be an easier target for my rubber band that way. He shot a paper airplane 255 feet. These airplanes, one of the lessons we teach here, ordinary paper, if it's properly prepared and properly motivated, it'll do things you would never dream. An ordinary kid, if they get properly prepared and properly motivated, might take a belt or a 2x4 or cattle prod, but they can do way more than they think, okay? Let's see. And Timza, is that she here? She's coming, okay. She also has an airplane launch record. We have two different ones you can make. Is that her back there? All right. Timza. All right. Come on up here, Timza. Let's give her a big hand for setting an airplane record. And you give that one to Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Now we have a climbing wall record. Titus, can you run the climbing wall after this lesson? Okay. Try to set some records on that. We have all kinds of fun stuff to do around here. Okay, brother, you're going to tell us why the earth is flat. Is that right? No. The flat earthers drive me nuts. I purposely avoided this for a long time, but thank you, folks. The earth is round, okay? Now, Kansas is flat, but the rest of it's round. Brother, take it away. Tell them about the flat earth arguments.
Thank you. It'll be round. Yeah, I got it. Hello, my name is Jason Casey. My degree is in physics, or actually education with the emphasis on physics. I went to school to be a physics teacher, and I was a physics teacher until I found a much better job, much more relaxing job as an explosive detector dog in Baghdad. During my time in college, though, I did take many physics classes, and I was a lab assistant for about 3 years. Some of the things I learned and had to do over and over and over again, I had to learn how to calculate the force of gravity. I had to learn F equals ma, or forces equals mass times acceleration. Had to learn how to draw free body diagrams, did tons of those. And of course, when I taught that, I mean, that's like one of the first things. We had to learn how to do free body diagrams and teach how to do free body diagrams. Real simple, though. I learned stuff like that vacuums don't suck. I learned basic astronomy. Teaching these things solidified my knowledge in them. I haven't taught them in a little bit, but the concepts remain. I might have forgotten dates and I might have forgotten names, but I'm very familiar with the concepts because I taught them. When you teach, it ingrains it in your mind. We did not have a Globe 101 class, though. In fact, after my 4 years of college, if someone asked me, can you prove the earth is a globe, I could probably only give you two basic things that probably everybody has learned throughout high school and college. So back in 2016, when I first saw someone post a video, proof that the earth was flat, I'm like, well, I like science, and I like studying things out and thinking things out. I'm like, okay, let's see what you got. And, convince me. Two things popped up in my mind, besides the things that the flat earthers claim as CGI. The only two things that popped up in my mind is Aristophanes' sticks and shadows, and then also the thing you learned probably in 5th grade about ships going over the horizon and over the water, and how they disappear from bottom to top. And since I like science and thinking these things, I'm like, okay, let's see what you got. But the thing is, when I watched it, I could actually get a pencil and paper out, and calculator out, and do the calculations that were given. And I'm like, yeah, I see their error here. And anyway, I closed the video up. I, smiled and moved on. And then one day, a friend of mine called me up saying, the earth is flat. And, he asked me lots of questions, like quickly. He just started throwing some questions out at me. Like, how can the earth's atmosphere stick to the earth when space is a vacuum? Shouldn't the vacuum of space suck out the atmosphere? How could Jesus see all nations from a mountain? How can water curve around a spinning ball? Planes fly level. Shouldn't they, if the earth is a ball, shouldn't they be dipping their nose 8 inches every square mile? That's what he said. Or 8 inches every mile square. I'll answer these and others in a little bit, but first let me get off on a rabbit trail, real quick rabbit trail. 1 Corinthians 3, 1 through 3. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. For I fed you with milk and not with meat. For hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions. So why did Paul give milk to new converts? Because they're babes, and they're babes because he can see they're babes, because they're envying, strife, and divisions. So my friend, he started getting very, very heated with me. And he would ask me a question, I would answer it, and he would start cursing at me. And I'm like, basically, he was not being very Christian at all. But which proved to me that he was a babe. And sometimes, basically all I'm saying here is sometimes you have to realize when someone is a babe, treat them as a babe. If a little 3-year-old is going to call you a poo-poo head, you don't need to start bickering back and forth. Just remember, okay, this is a babe. We need to treat you as such. But us as adults, we need to be growing up. And, if there's envy and strife and divisions among you, that's prima facie evidence. That's proof that you guys are babes. So work on that, self-reflect, say, hey, maybe we need to treat each other like brothers. And maybe we should let our speech be always with grace. That's in Colossians 4, 6. So it got real heated where I'm like, look, we can no longer talk about this over the phone. Let's do an email debate where you ask me a question, you propose the question, you ask me the question, I'll answer it, and then I'll ask you a question, and we'll do one thing at a time. And then I told him, and I'll post it somewhere where everybody can see, and everybody can see the best arguments one way or the other. And I did this mainly so he maybe would check his spirit, so he wouldn't be, losing his mind, and because he's gonna know that the whole world's gonna see it. So it was at roughly this time that I started a Facebook page called Debunking the Flat Earth Arguments. I did this mainly so I wouldn't fill up my personal feed with flat earth debunking material. And if I was going to spend a lot of time with a calculator out and doing equations, I wanted someplace to keep it so I can have it on, so I can have access on it, so I can bring it back. It was also at this time I joined some Facebook chat groups about the shape of the earth so I could better understand their beliefs and arguments. I found out that the majority of them, if not all of them, believe the following. 1, gravity is not real. And the more I dove into this, I realized why they cannot accept gravity, the current model of gravity as being real. Here's an example. basically, the flat Earth model would not work if gravity was real. If gravity pulls another mass, a mass pulls another mass to the center of that mass. So if this little chicken was in the center of this plate, the gravity would be pretty much, the mass would be equally around that chicken. So this would be, the gravitational pull would also be equally pulling on that chicken. But if that little chicken was over here, well, where's all the mass? It's over on this side. So the chicken would be wanting to be pulled into the center. So it would feel like the chicken, the chicken would have to walk almost at an angle, because it would feel like that chicken is, as much as he is approaching the edge, he's going to be, it's going to feel like he's going up a major mountain. So that would not work. The current understanding of gravity would make a flat Earth model not work. So what do? They throw out gravity, say, yeah, gravity's not real. Another thing that they point out is, or that they believe, is the moon doesn't reflect sunlight, but gives off its own light. And at first I was thinking, why would they believe that? But then by looking at their model, I realized, okay, yeah, if the moon, in their model, if the moon actually reflected sunlight, that you would have different phases of the moon at different locations on the same night. And so that can't work. So what's their response? Oh, the moon doesn't reflect sunlight. The moon gives off its own light. It just decides to be a crescent. It just decides to be full. It just decides to be half. We're going to get to that, more of that in a little bit. Another thing they believe is that there's a dome that keeps the atmosphere on the Earth. And the sun and the moon is inside this dome. And even though they believe that the sun and moon is inside the dome, they also pretty much across the board, they all say that we've never been to the moon. I like asking flat earthers sometimes, I say, well, why do you think we never been to the moon? And I get so many different responses. I went to this one major flat earth guy's Facebook post, and I'm pretty decent. I don't, hound him much, but every once in a while he says something, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and just ask him. He posted something about the moon, and I'm like, why do you believe we didn't go to the moon? And a few people said, I'll take this. We can take this. So I'm like, okay, bring it. One lady said, we didn't go to the moon because we can't go through the Van Allen radiation belts. Another person said, we can't go to the moon because it's too far. And another person said, we can't go to the moon because we cannot leave the low Earth orbit. And I'm like, hold on. I thought all you guys were flat earthers. I mean, what do you mean Van Allen radiation belts? Show me the Van Allen radiation belts on your model. And she gave me a picture of our model with the Van Allen radiation belts. And I'm like, oh, so you're saying on your model, there's Van Allen radiation belts in the atmosphere between the 3,000 miles between the Earth and the moon? And of course, when I brought that up, she no longer wanted to debate me, and no longer discuss. Oh, and also these guys really, they like with NASA's all lies, they believe, and except for, I guess, they believe Van Allen and Van Allen radiation belts, and I pointed out that Van Allen got these radiation belts, or discovered these, through satellites, which flat earthers don't believe in. And NASA gave Van Allen an award for discovering these things. But anyway, let's move on. Then this other guy's like, well, it's too far. I'm like, hold on. It's only 3,000 miles up in a pressurized atmosphere. If it's only 3,000 miles up in a pressurized atmosphere, atmosphere, most planes would be able to just fly up there. We'd probably have a Trump Tower on that thing right by now, or some coffee shop on there by now. I mean, you could go up there in a weather balloon if it's in the atmosphere, 3,000 in a pressurized dome, 3,000 miles up. But anyway, we'll move on. Oh, that's another thing that they believe. Pretty much all of them believe that satellites aren't real, and they believe, of course, they believe that all NASA pictures of the Earth are CGI. But not only do they believe that, they believe all pictures of the Earth from all the many other nations, from all the many. See, us Americans, we think that there's two space agencies right now. We think there's NASA and SpaceX, and we don't know that a lot of them don't know that there are lots of space agencies out there. But yeah, all the other space agencies and all the other nations, if they take pictures of the Earth, I can promise you, it's default automatically. Oh, it's CGI. Number 8, they believe that Antarctica is actually a large ice wall surrounding the disc-shaped Earth, and that ice wall keeps the water together, or it keeps the water on the Earth. Number 9, that all the nations and governments and private space agencies are in on this lie. Number 10, they believe that there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica in their summertime, in December. There's this one guy that he just recently said, okay, well, flat earthers. I think he's a preacher. He's like, well, I'll pay for so many people to go to Antarctica, and we can see it for ourselves. You can see this. He has a website, the-final-experiment.com, and it's some pretty good back and forth. But one thing, all these globe earthers are like, yeah, send me. And flat earthers like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, why are you saying you're good? And then I saw just yesterday, I think it might have been 2 days ago, that Eric Dubay, the yoga teacher, he just posted something about the final experiment. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm almost going against what he was saying earlier. If there is a 24-hour sun, it doesn't really prove anything. Even though there's many on record that say, you want to prove the Earth is a globe, let's go to Antarctica, and we'll see if there's a 24-hour sun. If there's a 24-hour sun, there's a globe. There's many on record that say that. But now, when this guy is saying, hey, okay, let's, he's calling their bluff, and then we'll see. And then they're like, yeah, maybe not, or they don't want to go. So before I go down to this story more, let me address and explain the questions I listed earlier and others that I received. One of the questions that this guy asked me, he said, have you ever seen the sunset? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, you haven't. I'm like, yes, I have. No, you haven't. You only thought you saw the sunset, but really the sun just kept on going further and further and further. And I'm like, well, I live on a hill. I get to see sunsets all the time. But okay, let me go. I didn't say this to him, but I was like, I know I saw sunset. I know that I saw sunset. So I got my phone out, and I went out there, and I filmed it. And I saw it with my own eyes, sunsets. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is like right there. How can he say anything about this? And I looked at it on the video, and it did have an appearance of it shrinking and going off in the distance. And I'm like, I know, I just saw it with my own eyes at sunset. And then I realized, and doing a little more research and talking to other people too about this, but I realized at that point, I'm like, this was a lot of light distortion. And this also explains a whole lot more of these pictures that a lot of flat earthers send out. But basically, it's light distortion in that area. So when you see like an apparent sun in front of a building, it's light distortion. When you see the sun that appears to be trapped in the clouds or power lines, it's light distortion. What you need to do is put a filter over that, and then you can see it much more clearly. Okay, another question this guy asked, and this is actually mentioned on Eric Dubay, the yoga teachers. 200 proofs the Earth is flat. he mentions it on number 4 and number 5. He said, and my friend, who I think he just basically was regurgitating this, he said, rivers don't flow uphill. I'm like, yeah, I know that. He's like, well, on your model, they flow uphill. And I'm like, okay, show me. What exactly are you talking about? I saw this other guy debunking the 200 proofs that Eric DeBay, the yoga teacher, did. And basically, the guy's like, I don't know where he's getting that from. Rivers don't go uphill. He's just lying. But I dove down deep and stayed down long with these flat earthers, and now I understand what they're saying. They actually believe that looks like right here is Australia. So they think Australia would be upside down in the globe Earth model. So basically, I had to tell my friend, I'm like, no, north is not up and south is not down. But yeah, that's what they were. Now Eric DeBay did not say, didn't explain this, but yeah, that's what they believe, that north is up and south is down, or on our globe model. Okay, another one. If the Earth was a sphere, wouldn't airplanes have continually dipped their noses to stay at a continuous altitude? Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I was actually an airplane or pilot. I was never a pilot. I have gone on many airplane rides. One thing I do know that I know is when you land with the back wheels touching first. So you land with the nose up. So we're just not going to go too much further on that one. But you don't have to. I know you don't have to point your nose in any direction to go up or down. And yeah, this is not the way you want to land. You don't want to land by pointing the nose down. This is another one that I get a lot. How can water stick to a spinning ball when it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour at the equator? And how do we not feel the spin? I've seen this before quite often. And here's a meme that I picked off from a Flat Earth page. This says, a spinning wet tennis ball has the exact opposite effect of the supposed ball Earth. Any water poured over it simply falls off the sides. And that's what they think that would happen if water was on a globe. I've seen this before too. They'll pour water on top and then the water will come down in their mind. They'll come down and fall off. And they'll be like, see, water can't stick to a globe. It just falls down. But we'll continue. Just fall off the sides. And giving it a spin results in water flying off 360 degrees, like a dog shaking off after a bath. Astronomers, profess the wet tennis ball example displays the opposite effect, and no, they don't, but of their supposed ball Earth, but claim that unknown mass, and again, this guy, anyway, some unknown mass, the magic adhesive properties of gravity suddenly kick in and allowing the spinning wet tennis ball Earth to keep every drop of gravitized water. Anyway, there's so many problems, so many errors with this meme that I won't go into all of this point. I'll just remind you not to get your knowledge of science from memes. The main point that's argued here, and that I see often, is that if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, why don't we fly off? Usually phrased a little bit different, like than the above meme. Here's some explanation without the math. Have you ever seen one of those small merry-go-rounds, and they're going around, they're probably only going around maybe 15 miles an hour tops, but you can only get so far, and you start flying off. You can only get so fast, and then 15 miles an hour, these little kids are going to be flying off. Now, a bigger merry-go-round, you could probably go 15 miles an hour, and you're not going to feel like you're going to fly off. Now, this is just the math. You can pause the video and check the math, but it works. So after I did the math, and I'm going to sum up the math for you just real quick. Here's the wet tennis ball. And this is obviously not the scale. There's the Earth. What I'm doing now is drawing a free body diagram, force diagram. So I'm going to give, let's say if it's spinning, of course, this way. Let's say if there's a 1 gram of water right here at this edge here. And again, it's not to scale. But we can figure out the force, that the centrifugal force is acting on that gram of water. And we find out the force is on the Earth, it's basically 0.000033 newtons. Really, really small. I'm not going to write all that out. And on the tennis ball, the spinning tennis ball, if I had to do this to scale, this would have to be 100 times greater. 100 times greater than the centrifugal force on the water on the globe. And then obviously the globe so why doesn't the water fly off? Because the globe is, with its gravity, is bringing in a lot of force the opposite direction. This is force due to gravity. And we're not going to bother calculating the gravitational pull of a tennis ball. It's negligible. So basically, real quick, this is why the water doesn't fly off the Earth going at 1 rotation per day. And you can calculate it, and I calculate it here on my page, and you can go check that math. But basically, at the equator, yes, you would. A 200-pound person would weigh approximately 3/4 of a pound less at the equator than at the North Pole. So now we'll get off that math stuff. We'll go to the question: how can the Earth's atmosphere stick to the Earth when space is a vacuum? Shouldn't the vacuum of space suck all the air out in space? Okay, let's define a vacuum. A vacuum is space in which there is no matter, in which the pressure is so low, or in which the pressure is so low that any particles in the space do not affect any process being carried on there. So basically, a vacuum is the absence of matter. So to put it another way, a vacuum is nothing. Nothing, now listen carefully here, nothing cannot have a force on anything because it's nothing. But I know a lot of flat earthers will be like, well, but I know vacuums have force because I see the canning jars, and the canning jars, the top goes pop, and then right when you get a vacuum seal, it goes pop, and the seal goes in. That's because the air pressure from the outside is now greater than the air pressure on the inside, and so the air pressure on the outside, which is something that can have a force on something, pushes it down. I'd put it another way. Let's say you're drinking any fluid from a straw. When you make that vacuum in that straw or in your mouth, it's not the vacuum that's sucking the liquid into your mouth. It's you have vacuum, lower pressure, and it's the air pressure that's pushing the liquid up the straw. You take the air pressure out, it's not going to suck the you're not going to be able to suck the fluid into your mouth. Another question that he asked me, he said, how could Jesus see all the nations from a mountain? My answer was that it was a vision. And he's like, prove that it was a vision. It can't be it doesn't say it was a vision. I'm like, well, look, if Jesus can see all the nations from a certain mountain, then shouldn't all the nations be able to see that mountain? So show me point to it. I should be able to see that mountain right now. I mean, that's not how, vision doesn't work one way. More than likely, if you can see me, I can see you too. So, and I apologize for sometimes giving these questions that seems so easy, but this is what I get all the time. Okay, how can the sun 3,000 miles away also, and 3,000 miles up, if we can see this mountain, but we can't see the sun? I mean, that makes no sense. Okay, another one, they point out, water is flat. How can water curve around a spinning ball? Well, they're a little off on this. Really, water has a natural shape of a sphere. But when other outside forces are acting on this water, then, yeah, it doesn't go into the shape that it wants to. But the cohesion forces of the water wants to keep it into a sphere. And then that's why when you see drops of water and it's falling, because while it's in free fall, it's not touching anything. It is in a sphere. Another question he asked, how can we possibly see the moon during the daytime? He called me up one day and he's like, hey, Jason, I saw the moon. And I'm like, okay. And I've gotten this from several. And another guy came in, and he's a friend of mine. He comes in one day. He says, how can I see the moon in the daytime? When I was driving over to your house, I saw the moon. And I'm like, okay, so what phase is it in? He said, half. And I'm like, what time is it right now? About 2 o'clock? He said, yeah, 2 o'clock. And I'm like, well, I can not only show you why you can see the moon, but I can tell you where in the sky you can see the moon right now. Even though I didn't go out there and look, I can tell you where in the sky you see it. And we're going to get to this, but as you see in the screenshot, if this is your position, and you're looking at the moon this way, and the sun is over here, or we'll put it this way, if you're in here, the sun is over here, which side of this moon would be lit up? If the sun is over there, that side will be lit up. If the sun is over there, that side will be lit up. If the sun is here, this side will be lit up. And then you'll be able to see if I'm the earth, or if I'm on the earth, the sun is over here, and the moon is over here, it's going to be full. If the moon is right here, and then the sun's over here, then I'm only seeing half. And it just so happens that the half that I see is facing the sun. And of course, when it's over here, and the sun's over here and the moon's over here, you cannot see a full moon. Now, if you ever saw a full moon in like this, when the sun's right next to it, yeah, then we got some issue. But I've been observing the moon and the sun all my life, and it works every single time. So anyway, I said, so it's half full, so let's make a 90-degree angle here, 90-degree angle. I'll point my hand to the sun, and the other side should be to the moon. Up, and we went outside. There it was, just like I said. But again, the flat earthers have to believe that the moon gives off its own light, because their model is just destroyed if they claim that the moon is actually reflecting the sunlight. Okay, a friend of mine sent me this article, our video of seeing the Chicago shoreline farther than we're supposed to see. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I forgot about the superior mirages, but I'm like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. But instead of just right then just saying, I don't know about that. I guess the earth must be flat. I actually looked into it. And the same guy who showed, the same meteorologist that showed the Chicago shoreline later on explained how you could see the Chicago shoreline because of a superior mirage. And a superior mirage happens only at certain temperatures. I mean, the atmosphere has to be just right. Basically, it has to be warmer at a higher level and colder in the bottom, or closer to the ground. And then the vision, the light rays will bend, and it'll appear that, or basically you can see further because of bending light. And the meteorologist had a good explanation. I'd recommend, if anybody's looking into this, go to see that meteorologist's explanation. It's, anyway, so I see that, and I'm like, yeah, there's your answer. And of course, then he's like, oh, he must be a shill. He must be, in on it. I'm like, okay, well, then let's just, mark up meteorologists. They're in on it too. We'll put that with the physicists. We'll put that with the airline pilots. We'll put that with the ship captains. We'll put that with the many, many, many people that's guarding this ice wall. We'll put that with all the leaders of the nations. We'll put that, all the elite, all the filthy rich elite. We'll put that with all the people that are currently in Antarctica doing research. I mean, we'll put that with the Simpsons creators, because I've seen people saying, oh, well, Simpsons, even in their movies, they're really hinting, or even their shows, they're hinting about that they know that the earth is flat. They're making fun of us. So we'll put that, with them, with the Simpsons creators. Anyway, let's go on. So a friend, he also said, hey, NASA actually means, it's in Hebrew, means to deceive. And I've seen pictures like this several times, and I just have to show them that they're in error. Or maybe they're not in error. Maybe they are actually trying to deceive. I'll just show you the Hebrew words right there, the numbers for the words. Nashah is from H5377. That means to deceive. NASA, H5373, that actually means to lift up. Now, I think NASA, it's not like they were looking in the Hebrew, in my opinion, trying to figure out what they're going to call themselves. I think it's just really a coincidence. But it does show that the people that are sending out this garbage are either deceive themselves or they're trying to deceive people. And when I point this out to them, after I point this out to them and they still share it, they're now trying to deceive people. I've seen a debate with, it was Rob Skiba and Zach Bauer. And Rob Skiba spent the first quite a bit showing how NASA photoshops their images. And then I think in that video, if not in that video, it was many other people, they show this other guy saying, yeah, we have to Photoshop them. And anyway, you can actually see, now not all the images of the Earth are Photoshopped, but the satellites go very small distance. They're, I think, about 100, 150 miles. Or I forgot that number. It might be quite a bit more. But they don't go that far to see the whole Earth. So yeah, they take lots and lots of pictures. It's like the whole panorama images. It's like, you get that and you just go all the way around, and then they put all that together. So, but you can go to NASA's own website where they say, yeah, some of these are actually, they don't say Photoshop, they say composites, which makes sense. Another meme I see often is something like this. They're like, well, this picture was taken in 2012, and this one's 2013. Do you actually think these are real? And the big thing that jumps out at you is the size of North America. And I'll just answer that with these two pictures. This is the same globe at different areas, at different measurements of the camera. These photos of the globe, of the same globe, are taken from different distances. And as you can see, North America seems a different size in each of these because you can see more of the globe, which actually makes sense. That's why you can see more the further you go up, because you can see, because it's a globe. And then again, this is the same globe under the same lights. And you can see a major, major difference in North America. Okay, here's one that I saw, and I had to do some research. Not because I knew that there was an answer. I knew, but yeah, everybody says, okay, well, the Earth goes around one time, or spins around one time in 24 hours. And then it also, in half a year, it will get onto the other side. So if it was exactly 24 hours, why are we, when we're on the other side of the solar system, why isn't it not dark at that time? And the answer is that it doesn't spin, it spins in relation to the sun exactly 24 hours in one day. But in relation to the solar system, I think it's like 4 minutes off or something like that. And so by the time it gets to the other end, or on the other side of the sun, it's still daylight in the daytime. And compared to many of the flat Earth memes, this one wasn't that bad. Again, he should have asked a physicist or an astrologer or somebody besides his yoga teacher to explain this. But again, the big misconception is that it spends one time in relation to the solar system in 24 hours. It actually 4 minutes less one time in relation to the sun. Okay, here's one. They say, if you don't understand that we would see 100% different stars when we're in one part of the solar system versus the other part, he says, then I can't help you. Well, that, too, it doesn't take much research. Or just, get a telescope and start looking, start seeing things, know what you're talking about before you say something. But the answer is the constellations do change, and there's some constellations that are seasonal. For instance, Orion, Cassiopeia, Canis Major, those are seasonal. Okay, here's one. If the sun is 93 million miles away, how are clouds behind it? And I touched on this a little bit. It's because of light distortion. But let's just say that they're right here. Let's just say just contemplate this just a second. Let's say they're implying that the sun there is maybe 5 miles away, but we'll give them 20 miles. We'll give them 20 miles. So the sun is 20 miles up in that, in their minds right there. Here's the sun, 20 miles. Okay, if I could look up and see the sun right there, and it was only 20 miles away, shouldn't someone west of me, say 20 miles, should be able to look, let's say 20 miles west, he should be able to look up at a 90-degree or 45-degree angle and see the sun. Now, I do know some things a little when it comes to the sun. say you're looking at the spring equinox, or you're in the spring equinox, and it's noon. Where would the sun be when it's noon? Straight overhead, right? If it was 20 miles up, let's say if it was spring equinox, and it was right over your head, but it was only 20 miles away, well, then you should be able to call your buddy 20 miles east and say, hey, look at the sun. And he'll look at it, and it'll be 45 degrees at an angle, 45 degrees towards you. So it'll be noon where you're at, but over there, just 20 miles away, it'll be like, let's say if it was, well, it'll be 3 hours one way or the other, depending on which direction you're at. So, and we can extend this out too. We can extend that out. I'll give them 100 miles. Let's do it 100 miles. Then I'll call someone up at 100 miles, and he should be able to look towards me, and the sun should be at a 45-degree angle. And that doesn't happen. It won't happen. And we could actually extend that out to their 3,000 miles. Here's my pictures to respond that show light distortion. Basically, of course, this is a joke. Okay, the sun is so close, you can see buildings behind them. Or the sun is so close, it can be trapped into power lines. Or look, the sun is in front of this tower. Or here's some light rays coming in through a window. You know, obviously the sun is not right behind that window. And this, yeah, I get this a lot. But basically, well, I think this picture might answer it. Are these railroad tracks parallel? Yes. Do they look parallel? Actually, they look like they converge to a single spot. That's how parallel lines work when they're going away or long distances at certain angles. Another question that a lot of people ask, and I thought about this when I was in 8th grade and maybe even high school. I didn't really understand it. I'm like, well, if the Earth is spinning, why can't a helicopter lift up and just stay up for 12 hours and the Earth spin around and the helicopter come down? I mean, but again, I was in 8th grade and I didn't understand F equals ma, or force equals mass times acceleration. And I didn't understand a lot of things about physics. But to put it in physics terms, F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. If there's no force acting in one way, then there's no acceleration. If there's no net force acting in one way, there's no net acceleration in another way, in that way. So his velocity has to be constant. And so if it started off at, say, 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, with the equator, then when it lifts up, it's still going to be at the same speed in relation to the equator. You have to have an external force or a net force acting on it to change its velocity. Or to put it another way, let's say you're in an airplane and say you drop your peanuts or something like that. Do the peanuts just fly out to the back of the airplane at 500 miles an hour? No, they go down. But why? You're going 500 or more miles an hour. So, it should just go back to the airplane, right? No, because again, sum of the forces equals mass times acceleration. If there's no force acting on it in the one direction and another direction, it will not accelerate. The velocity will be constant in that plane. And another thing I get a lot is, well, look at these rocks balance. How can these rocks balance when the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour? About the same, going back to the airplane, about the same way you can, if you're in an airplane and it's a smooth ride, you can balance your juice boxes on top, because there's no net force acting on it. And why does the horizon look flat from low elevation? And I'll point out this picture. This is a basketball at a very, very close picture. This is a very, very close picture of a basketball, and it appears flat. And of course, the further you get away, the more of the sphere you can see. Okay, so now back to my discussion with my friend. We started an organized debate, and he sent me a video. The video is called 75 Bible Verses That Prove the Earth Was Flat. I watched it. He asked me a question. I answered it. Then I asked him a question. He never attempted to answer. He just called me up and started cursing me. I was disappointed. I wanted that debate to go on, but you know, I've gotten into several other discussions, and where I could really dive in deep. It's not like I'm trying to disprove them or I'll say not like I'm trying to convince them of anything. As many flat earthers have told me, they said, and this guy told me too. He said, "You will not convince me the Earth is a sphere." And I'm like, yeah, I realize that. It doesn't matter what I show you. You know, I will not convince you. But anyway, so I had a few more arguments. I wanted to ask them, but I didn't, so I couldn't. So I was able to ask it in other forums. I did ask these in a pretty large forum, about 100,000 people there. And unfortunately, and I've asked them several other times, and unfortunately, they never even attempt to answer these questions. There's one forum, again, the one that had 100,000 people. This guy kicked me out for asking these questions. This guy's name was Nathan Thompson. He was featured on, or not featured, but he was interviewed on Behind the Curve. And he is well known in the flat earth community. So he had this forum. I say, and the reason why I'm showing this to you, because, well, it's to show a point, but also it's there's some nice gold at the end. I say, can you tell me who booted me and why I was booted and why no warning? Let me ask. So you think the earth is a spinning ball. Why? Word on the street is, you're not there to learn. I respond, the title of the page is Official Flat Earth and Globe Discussion. I did not see anywhere that this was a come here so we can teach you flat earth stuff. So what kind of page is it? Is it one that each side could bring good facts to the table and discuss it? Or is it one where someone who knows more than the average person about physics has to sit out? Yeah, he responds, yeah, it's also not come here and teach us globe stuff. Now, back to my original question. You think it's a ball. Why? I respond, when I first saw someone post a video that says, proof the earth is flat, I thought to myself, okay, let's see what you got. I like science and testing things. I used to be a physics and algebra and physical science teacher. After the video, I could tell the person making the video had several errors. Then after looking at the model, I saw many more. Yes, I can show you without a doubt that the spherical model is the only possible model. But let's discuss. Show the world I'm in error. I'll bring my best stuff, and you guys shoot it down or shoot it out of the water. Then your arguments become much greater. His response, so what's your argument for ball earth? Because I want to debunk it real quick. I respond, I have many, but here are a few points. And I'll list some, and I'll list a few today. I said, we'll start there. He goes, number one, trying to debunk a map that no one presented. Brilliant. Let's look at number two. Same thing on second post. Let's look at third. Wow, your stuff is, wow. So all you is focus on a map no one presented as evidence. What about flat water or plains fly level or no curve in any direction? And that's the go-to. It's like every time you ask a question, they're like, what about flat water? They pretty much, it's almost like a cult, almost. I'll respond, then give me the correct map. I've asked for the correct map many times, and that one was the most common given. He responds, you have terrible arguments. I'll respond, so show me the correct map. This is the gold. He responds, I never claimed to have a good map. I repeat, I never claimed to have a good map. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, why are you beating up on the insurance salesman, Nathan Thompson? Well, who do you want me to beat up on? A yoga teacher? They're all, I'm like, okay, anybody, show me the good map. Yeah, show me, after you show me the good map, I can beat up on that map. But this is the most common map that they've sent out. And that's the most common map. This guy here, well, so here's a couple of my arguments I have with them, with the map that they present. We'll start. All 2D maps of the Earth have distortions. And when mapping a sphere to a 2D map, there will be distortions. The most common map of the globe has some distortions, and the distortions become greater when mapping close to the poles of on that map. The flat Earth maps, like the one pictured, have major distortions, especially in the southern hemisphere. In reality, Asia is about 17.2 million square miles, and Australia is almost 3 million square miles. So Asia, in reality, Asia is about 6 times bigger than Australia. The flat Earth map, as pictured, has Australia about the same size as Asia. If the Earth was actually flat, there would be no major distortions when mapping on any map, because it's flat. You're mapping a two-dimensional object to another two-dimensional object. There would be no distortions. But all maps have distortions. So I asked them, well, where's your map that doesn't have any distortions? And of course, they won't give it to you. And a lot of globe Earth people would ask this plenty of times to flat earthers. They say, where's your key? Where's your flat Earth key? And now I think this guy is actually just trolling for money. I could be wrong, but I just don't think he's a flat earther. I think he's just, he knows he can get some money by saying a bunch of crazy stuff. But anyway, this guy, he's so proud. He's like, here's the key to the flat Earth map, because he found a flat Earth key to this Gleason map. It's not a flat Earth key, but he found a key to the Gleason map that looks like the flat Earth map, and he's like, "There's a key." Well, look at the key. That shows that this is a spherical Earth. Have you ever been to an airport and you see on those screens, you see all these these planes going from one area to another, and you notice they're always curved? And this stumped me when I was in high school. I took the easy classes in high school, but it stumped me. I'm like, okay, I don't understand. I see the flat screens, and all these planes are going. Why don't they just go in a straight line? Well, it's because the Earth is a sphere, and the screens are flat. So I presented this. I say, I see only two possible answers to why I look at flat monitors at airports, and I always see flights going in curved paths. One, because the Earth is a sphere, and the routes that I'm observing are actually the shortest distances. I know when you map the shortest distances from a sphere to a map, you'll end up seeing curved lines like the one in the picture. Or the second option is all these private airlines would rather waste billions of dollars a year in fuel and millions of man hours, so people who actually understood geometry would not catch on that the Earth is actually flat. And my question to the flat earther, do you claim number two? Do you think they'll be spending all that money just to fool us, even private airlines just to fool us, even airplane pilots, I'm sure that would just be going through their minds like, I don't know why that I'm going through this long curved path when I can just go straight. Or is there a third option? And if there is, explain it to me. Send it to me. Okay, number 3. On June 20th, when it's 6 p.m. in Sydney, Australia, it'll be 5 a.m. in Ushuaia, Argentina. And between those times, and also in South Africa, it would also be dark in South Africa, if I got those times right. But you can in the wintertime there, which June 20th, it's dark more than it's light, and you can see Sigma Octanus, which is the South Pole star, from all those directions simultaneously. So I got somebody out here. Let's say if this guy's in Australia and he wants to look up the South Pole star, he looks that way. It's like, there it is, right there. And the guy over here in Australia, so the other guy on the other side of the globe, I say, you want to look up the South Pole star? He goes and looks at the opposite direction. And then in South Africa, he looks at about 90 degrees between both of them and says, oh, no, it's that way. How can this guy look that way and see the South Pole star? Simultaneously, this guy is looking this way and seeing the South Pole star. And simultaneously, this guy is looking this way and seeing the South Pole star. Explain that to me. And you should see the mental gymnastics trying to explain that, which most of them just don't even attempt because it won't work. And then I'll ask the flat earthers again, how does that work? We'll go ahead and just do one more. There's many others, and we'll get some more later. But you can go check. You can go look for a flight right now from Sydney, Australia, to Santiago, Chile, and we'll go ahead and hit this here. I don't think it's coming up really.
It is on
Well, I don't see the.
It's just here.
Okay. Okay. So from Sydney to Santiago, Chile, you can find some nonstop flights that would take about 12 and a half hours. And this is a flat Earth map. This is the common flat Earth map. And they're really, talking about hiding stuff, they really hide their numbers because they don't want to give you an official number because then you could show them that they're wrong. But the common number that I've seen for the diameter of the flat Earth is roughly 25,000 miles. So this here is 25 inches. Quick little math. How many miles per inch if I had to scale that? 1,000 miles per inch. So Sydney, Australia is about right there. And Santiago, Chile is about right there. So let's just see how far that would be on the flat Earth map. I got about 16 inches. So 16 inches, little conversion, 16,000 miles. So you telling me that you can go 16,000 miles on this commercial airplane in 12 and a half hours? You know the speed of sound is 767 miles per hour? You mean you're telling me that these commercial airplanes are going twice the speed of sound and 16,000 miles. That's a long distance without refueling. I really don't think that someone can go one of these commercial airplanes go 16,000. But maybe I haven't researched them all. I know the ones that I researched, they don't go close to that. Show me the ones that can go 16,000 miles and Mach 2 or better. And I would probably pay look at this right here. The round trip ticket, only $1,300. That's nonstop. I would pay $1,300 to go Mach 2. I'm just curious. That'll be fun. But anyway, that's all I have for now. And later on, we'll go ahead and go into the 75 Bible verses that prove the video that the guy sent me. And we'll go ahead and have fun with that. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. My concern with this is people are using this flat earth idea to discredit the Bible. They're claiming the Bible teaches that. It does not teach any such thing. So this, as a soldier in the Lord's army, you better be prepared to answer that one. Right? The earth is round and it spins. If you don't like it, get off. All right? All right. Kids, let's go break some records. Titus, you get records on the climbing wall. And I'm going to help the kids if you want to set the record with the airplane or shooting a rubber band the greatest distance. We'll set some records today. Billy, did you get stakes out for the airplane launch every 10 feet? Every 10 feet between the 50-foot markers. I want you to do something and spray paint it bright purple or something. All right, do you at what